Hello, beautiful people. Happy weekend and welcome to your astrological forecast for next week, predominantly focused on the full moon in Capricorn number 1, because as many of you might be aware, this year we are blessed with 4 lunations in Capricorn, 2 new moons and 2 full moons, and this will be the first one of the 2 full moons which we will be experiencing this month, and of course the next one will be taking place in July. So before we dive into this lunation, we're going to name all the aspects that are going to become exact prior to this lunation, and as always they will be also active during the lunation, and during the full moon there will be also aspects that will be already active and becoming exact in the weeks to follow. So we will be taking it step by step in a good Virgo fashion. So today when I'm recording this, we are actually experiencing moon still in a sign of Virgo. So no wonder I feel this way. So I'm recording this on Friday the 14th. Moon is still in a Virgo right while I'm recording this, and actually today we are experiencing the Mercury Sun conjunction, which is resetting the cycle that began between the two of them on April 11th in the sign of Aries, which was right after the new moon solar eclipse in Aries, and during the time Mercury was retrograde. So it was making us reevaluate this understanding that there will be a new way that we will have to start identifying reality and looking at different options, right? And then shortly after this conjunction, moon will move into the sign of Libra, where moon will remain for the entire weekend. So this is where we will be having the opportunity to establish more balance, to balance these new energies that have been streaming through. This week has been very busy. We've been having a lot of aspects. So with moon being in the sign of Libra, we have the opportunity to see where things are out of balance, where we are experiencing crisis, and now bring it a little bit closer to the middle point, to the equilibrium. Then on Sunday night, Monday morning, depending again where you are in the world, for me here in Europe, it will be already Monday morning, Venus will make a square to Neptune. As we know, this is very important because Venus is the ruler of the South Node, the node that we are, learning to evolve. And Venus is still in a sign of Gemini at this point, even though Venus will be moving into the sign of Cancer shortly after. But at the time when Venus is making a square to Neptune, she's still in a sign of Gemini on 29 degrees, 52 minutes, which is the analytic degrees, the karmic degrees, 29 degrees adds up to number 11, which is master number frequency, and is saying that the action has to be taken, a new choice has to be taken, because there are things that needs to be let go of. And then, as I already mentioned, shortly after that, on Monday the 17th, Venus will enter the sign of Cancer, where Venus will remain, let me just check my notes, until July the 11th, which is when Venus will move into the sign of Leo. So Venus moves into the sign of Cancer. Shortly after that, Moon, on Monday the 17th, Moon will move into the sign of Scorpio, and shortly after that, Mercury will make a square to Neptune. Again, same energy. Mercury is making the first quarter square to Neptune, which is the crisis in action. Something has to be done for the energy to shift, and Mercury at this stage is still in the sign of his rulership, in the sign of Gemini, which is where Mercury does very well. It's helping us to tap into our multidimensionality and see all these different options and choices that we could be interacting with, so the energy can shift and potentially move in a different direction. And Neptune in Pisces on 29 degrees, holding on literally in the same place as where Venus squared it, 29 degrees, 52 minutes. Neptune is showing us what everything now lost meaning, is now dated and needs to be adjusted, right? And shortly after that, Mercury will move into the sign of Cancer, and Mercury will remain in the sign of Cancer until the 2nd, I believe, 2nd of July. Yes, 2nd of July. So both Venus and Mercury are changing sign on the same day, and actually later on the same day, Monday is very busy. Mercury and Venus will have a conjunction on 0 degrees and 20 minutes of Cancer. And actually, interestingly enough, Venus and Mercury had a conjunction very recently. It was just in April, on April the 19th, and that was right before the full moon in Scorpio. So yeah, so we have another conjunction between Venus and Mercury, and of course at that time Mercury, I believe, was still retrograde. Yes, during the time of last Venus and Mercury conjunction, Mercury was retrograde. So now because they just both squared Neptune from the sign of Gemini, which represents the choice. Now, both being in a sign of Cancer is all about tapping into our intuition and resetting the cycle that began in the sign of Aries. And now we are in a sign of Cancer, which is actually squaring each other because they are both cardinal signs. So with the Aries, it's all about this new beginning, new direction. But with Cancer, is actually saying that you need to tune in to understand what does it mean for you. Because after that, of course, is Leo, which is about the soul's purpose and destiny. So anyway, that's just a side note. So throughout Tuesday, Moon is in the sign of Scorpio, of course. Then on Wednesday, there will be some interesting aspects, but not between personal planets. It will be Vesta making a trine to Neptune. Moon will move into the sign of Sagittarius, and subsequently Vesta will move into the sign of Leo. Then on Thursday the 20th, Sun will make a square to Neptune. Sun is ending its transit through Gemini, because shortly after that Sun will move into the sign of Cancer and we will begin a Cancer season. And Sun and Neptune last conjunct on March 17th, which was of course right before the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra. So Sun is moving into the sign of Cancer on Thursday the 20th, and the Cancer season will officially begin, which of course is the solstice, the change of season. For us here in the upper hemisphere is the beginning of summer. For you guys in the southern hemisphere, I believe, is the beginning of the winter season. So change of energy, change of season, Cancer season, all about emotions and intuition. So then rolling into Friday the 21st, we will have Mercury making a sextile to Mars. Interestingly enough, Mercury and Mars had two recent conjunctions. So the first one took place on December 28, 2023, which was right after the full moon in Cancer. That was the last lunation of 2023. Mercury at the time was retrograde. The conjunction still took place in the sign of Sagittarius, whilst Mercury was retrograde, reevaluating all this belief system, especially, you know, what are the stories we tell ourselves, because that was still before Jupiter conjunct Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And then the second conjunction, the most recent one, took place on January 27, 2024 in the sign of Capricorn, which is all about redefining things. And this was right after the full moon in Leo. So isn't that interesting? The first one was right after the full moon in Cancer, which is the illumination of who we are becoming. And then the second one took place after full moon in Leo, which is about, okay, what is it that makes us feel joyous and self-actualized and alive. So this is how we know that we are on the right track to following that which we came here to do, right? So now we have the first sextile between Mercury and Mars, which is a Taurus flavor, of course. And Mars now is in the sign of Taurus. Mercury, of course, at this stage is in the sign of Cancer. And these are all earth sign. These are all earth and water. These are all feminine sign. The yin sign, the receptive sign, which is once again inviting us to go inwards and tap into our senses, tap into our intuition, which is helping us to expand on this energy that got started in January, right after this full moon in Leo, in the sign of Capricorn, which is actually what we're building up towards, this full moon in Capricorn, your inner authority, because this is what this entire year is about. The year number 8, the strength, building up resiliency, building up our sense of authentic self, to be the conscious creator of our life, to take charge of our reality, or charge of our manifestations. So this Mercury and Mars sextile is happening shortly before the actual full moon, which, as I already mentioned, for some of us is happening on Thursday evening. And for some of us is happening already in the, this is Friday evening. And for some of us is happening in the early hours of Saturday, the 22nd. Shortly after that, on Saturday the 22nd or Sunday the 23rd, again, depending where you are in the world, for the guys across Atlantic in the US, it's going to be still Saturday the 22nd. For us here in Europe and further, it will be already Sunday the 23rd. Mercury will make a square to the nodes. So Mercury will be squaring the nodes from the sign of Cancer. And Mercury had a conjunction with the North Node on March the 18th. So again, that was right before the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra. So at this stage, Mercury is squaring the nodes. And so Mercury is being the skip step, being in the sign of Cancer. It's again about tuning into your own inner voice, into your own intuition, and this is how we're going to resolve things. And then subsequently after that, it's Vesta making an opposition to Pluto, and we will end the week with Moon moving into the sign of Aquarius. For some of us, this is already Monday morning, so Moon in the sign of Aquarius. But for the majority of the weekend, for some of us the entire weekend, actually Moon is still in the sign of Capricorn, which is once again a cardinal sign that represents a new direction and is saying about redefinition of reality. And this is of course under the influence of after effects of this full moon in Capricorn, which is the midpoint of the new moon that happened on January the 11th. And this is where I'm going to roll into that. So this full moon in Capricorn got seeded on January 11, 2024. So as I mentioned last time, during the full moon in Sagittarius, the Sagittarius full moon was the last moon that got seeded in 2023, because the new moon in Sagittarius was the last new moon on 2023. And now this is the first new moon of 2024. Interestingly enough, the last new moon of 2024, which will be literally taking place on 30th or 31st of December 2024, depending where you are in the world, will be once again a new moon in Capricorn. Now, the new moon in Capricorn that took place on January 11, 2024, happened on 20 degrees 44 minutes, which is Virgo Decan. So it's all about learning and adjusting. So this year is about learning and adjusting that which, you know, we thought was the structure of reality until this point. So learning from the past technically, because of course Saturn as the ruler is in a sign of Pisces, which is all about a combination of all the past cycles that came before. And the ruler Neptune is also in Pisces at this stage 29 degrees and just hanging on there for dear life, because Neptune is not moving into Aries until next year. So it's literally just hanging on the last minute, and it's gonna shortly go retrograde next month, but of course Saturn is gonna go retrograde first on June 29th. So anyway, going back to this Capricorn new moon that got seeded on January 11, 2024, 20 degrees 44 minutes of Capricorn, and at that time actually the moon itself was squaring the nodes. So let me just get the chart here so I can have the visual. So the moon itself was squaring the nodes, and the resolution node was the south node in Libra, saying that this is what needs to change, this is what needs to adjust. Now all these planets that are going to be squaring the nodes from the sign of Cancer, starting with this Mercury at the end of the week, will be actually pointing to the north node, which is in Aries, this new direction, new beginning. So things have shifted now. During this 6 month, things have shifted for us. So during January square, resolution was the south node in Libra. This was prior to the eclipses, prior to the eclipse in Libra, prior to the eclipse in Aries, which happened in a new phase conjunction to North Node. Like I said, this is where the energy shifted, because it was new phase rather than the closing phase as it was prior. You know, the full moon in Libra, lunar eclipse in March, and also the new moon in Libra in October last year happened in a closing phase with the nodes. This was already in a new phase in April. So this is why things have shifted during Aries season, because we are going ahead. Now we're not looking back as much as we also have to look forward. So that new moon in Capricorn also happened in conjunction with Pluto. Pluto was still in the sign of Capricorn, because as we know, Pluto moved into the sign of Aquarius on the 20th, right after it conjuncted Sun on 29 degrees 59 minutes of Capricorn. And Pluto was in a new phase conjunction with this moon, which is 29 degrees is the ending, new conjunction is Aries flavor, so beginnings and endings, and this is the flavor of this entire year. We are experiencing the last Pluto retrograde into the sign of Capricorn, which is culminating Pluto's transit through Capricorns, which started in 2008. So is the going forward, is the 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's like, you know, like seeding the new energy, already interacting with the new energy, all these new downloads, solar flares, all these things that we are being exposed to, but at the same time still experiencing the manifestation of the past cycles. So this is what seeded this moon. And now we have in this full moon number 1, which is going to be very different from the full moon number 2, because during that time Saturn will be retrograde. Now Saturn is still direct, and actually this full moon, the most important thing about this full moon is that it's being squared by Neptune. So the new moon new moon happened in conjunction with Pluto, which was on 29 degrees. 29 degrees, which is like a Neptune flavor. You know, 29 degrees is the end of the sign. And now we have in full moon in Capricorn, which is squared by Neptune. And it's saying that, okay, what it is that we need, because with regards to moon to Neptune is a closing square, and with regards to Neptune to sun is a closing square. The exact sun square to Neptune is happening on the 20th, so only a day before, because of course then sun is moving into the sign of Cancer, right? So these are, from each direction is a closing square, which is about what do we need to release and let go of so the cycle can end. And of course Neptune, being in a sign of his rulership on 29 degrees 54 minutes at this stage, which is 11 and 9. 29 is number 11, and 5 and 4 is the number 9, which is again about the culmination. It's not quite over yet, the cycle, because the 10 is the complete closing and new beginning, but the 9 is like the culmination, is the endings, and it's squaring the moon, so it's creating this pressure, it's creating a lot of tension, which is saying something has to change, something has to shift. We already had this new moon in Gemini, which was seeding this new energy of multidimensionality. And again, another interesting factor to pay attention to, that Venus once again is conjunct this, is conjunct the sun. So it's conjunct the sun, is opposing the moon. And then we had the new moon in Gemini. Venus was in a new phase conjunction with the sun. Now Venus is in a new phase conjunction to the sun, and also during the next full moon in Capricorn, next full moon in Capricorn, Venus will be actually already in a sign of Leo, but then there was another one. Oh no, maybe I just looked wrong. Anyway, yeah, so this is the second one when Venus is actually making, she's in a new phase conjunction with the sun, and is in this case is of course opposing the moon. And Venus is also in a new cycle with Mercury, because the Venus and Mercury conjunction is happening on Monday, right? Monday the 17th. So there are these new cycles that are beginning, and Venus, of course, the ruler of the south node, the node we are trying to resolve, Venus now being in a sign of Cancer, which is all about this tapping into your, like I said, tapping into your intuition, understanding your relationship towards yourself and others through your inner world, not the outer world, because Gemini was about accumulating information and seeing different options, seeing different choices, understanding that there are this multiplicity of things out there that we can interact with. But now Venus is going inward, is going into the sign of Cancer, which is the internal world. So is Mercury. It's all about this internalization, it's all about this intuition and our emotions to guide us through this process. And it's squared by Neptune. It's yes, it is squared by Neptune. It's out of sign square. That's why I'm like checking again. It's out of sign square, but it is still a square within a degree. But it's squared by Neptune in a sign of Pisces, which is again about our spiritual essence, right? Our like this understanding that we've been everything before. We've been everywhere before. We experienced everything before, because Neptune is on 29 degrees of Pisces, which is the totality of totality. It's like Neptune and Pisces represents the 12th sign of the zodiac, the 12th house, which is the totality of the cycle that came before, and is on 29 degrees and 54 minutes, which adds up to number 9, as I said, and it's squaring this moon, which is creating this pressure. It's creating this enormous pressure for us to let go of these old labels, these old identities, these old structures that we are so attached to, that created the reality we've been experiencing until this point, because it no longer resonates. For majority of people, it no longer resonates. It actually doesn't give the sense of fulfillment, and we don't, in many cases, we don't even recognize ourselves in these concepts. Like, this is not who I am anymore, because Venus, as the ruler of the south node, is now in the sign of Cancer. So she's saying that now we are trying to explore our inner landscape, our inner world, to help us understand that, well, that what we were being told by the external environment, served its purpose. Yes, absolutely, and it worked, to certain extent. But now it's maxed out. It's maxed out, because also there's gonna be at this time of the full moon, they are still within a square, because the exact square between Venus and Neptune is happening now on Sunday on the 16th, and the exact square between Mercury and Neptune is happening on the 17th. So they're still within the orb of the square, even though it's now like the climax already happened. So it's like disassociated, right? It's like they're moving away from it, but it's still active, which is again about releasing, because between Mercury and Neptune and Venus, and Neptune is the first quarter square, which is the crisis in action, which is about taking an action that would help us to release this attachment to these old versions of ourselves, to these old versions of the life we've been experiencing, this reality, the structure of reality that we were experiencing until this point, because Saturn is in Pisces, because this reality is no longer in alignment, because Saturn was the ruler of Pluto and will become the ruler of Pluto for this one more stint Pluto will have in sign of Capricorn between September and November, but it's done. It's finished. Saturn is going to move into the sign of Aries next year, even though it is going to retrograde back into Pisces again, but fully it's going to move into the sign of Aries in 2026. And so will Neptune, and so will Uranus move into the sign of Gemini. So everything is shifting, everything is changing. And then we have still, Pluto is still within a degree of the trine to Jupiter. The exact trine, of course, took place on June the 2nd, prior to this new moon in Gemini, which we already had. And then, as I already mentioned, Mars is making the exact sextile to Mercury on that day, on the same day of this full moon, because Mars is the ruler of the North Node, is being in a sign of Taurus, which is helping us to ground this energy. So now we have all the planets moving into the sign of Cancer, which is this feminine energy, right? Like I said, it's this water, it's this intuition, it's this yin, it's this receptivity, tuning in rather than trying to accumulate more information from the outside. We had the opportunity to do all of that during Gemini season, but now the energy is shifting, and it's a new season, right? It's like this new beginning of something. So we need to kind of take it easy. We need to kind of get to learn, okay, where I'm at, who am I, And then with this sextile, like I said, Mars being in a sign of Taurus, even though traditional astrology will tell you it's a detriment, actually this is exactly what's needed. That's why we cannot just look at things in separation, but we have to look at the whole picture, because yes, Mars being in Taurus is exactly what's needed, because with all these other energies, we need to ground, we need to create this new foundation, because with all these other planets being in a sign of Cancer, we are tuning in. And this Mars is then grounding this energy, because of course North Node is in a sign of Aries, right, ruled by Mars. Mars is now in Taurus in a closing phase to Uranus. So we are creating this new foundation, because then there will be Mars and Uranus conjunction, and then the new cycle will begin between the two of them, which will reset the cycle that began in 2022. And this is again creating an acceleration, even though it is in a sign of Taurus, but it's Uranus, right? So anyway, I don't even know why I'm talking about Uranus, but Uranus is always important, because it's it's ruler of Pluto at the moment, and of course it's ruled by Venus, so it's important, right? That's why I'm because I'm like, why am I talking about Uranus? Because Venus is conjuncting Sun, new phase, because the Venus Sun conjunction exact took place on the 4th of June, which is was right before the new moon in Gemini. That's why Venus was in the new phase conjunction with the Gemini new moon. And also the Sun and Mercury conjunction just took place, actually it's taking place today when I'm recording this on the 14th. So, and Venus and Mercury on the 17th. So there are all these new cycles which are being reset once again. Well, for Mercury, Sun, and Venus and Sun, it took place in the sign of Gemini, but between Mercury and Venus themselves, each other, it took place in sign of Cancer, like on 0 degrees 20 minutes, right? So there are these multiple options that are available to us, as it is, obviously the choice with the Gemini, multiplicity, multidimensionality, seeing things from different perspective and having the opportunity to create a different outcome by making different choice. But then we need to go into Cancer, because we need to actually trust ourselves. We need to feel safe and secure within ourselves, because of course, and this is a good one, you can get all the downloads in the world, right? But if you don't trust what you get in, and if you're not able to ground that energy, then what is it good for, right? It comes and goes, right? We cannot ground it, because, if we don't trust it, if you're like, oh yeah, I'm just making it up, right? Like all of us, we are at that stage at some point where we feel, oh, I'm just making it up, I'm really not, channeling or tapping into everything. I'm just making it up. It's coming from my ego mind, right? And this is why Mars is in a sign of Taurus. Because Venus, the current ruler of Mars, is in a sign of Cancer. Venus, the current ruler of Uranus, Uranus, the ruler of Pluto. Pluto is retrograde, you know, like is this acceleration, the internal expansion. Because, you know, the planet that is retrograde, especially with the outer planet, is the acceleration of the evolution, but it's happening on an internal level because the reality is created from inside out, of course. So this Venus, being the ruler of Mars as the ruler of the North Node, Venus is the ruler of the South Node. This is how we are shifting the pattern, right? Because right now we by this stage, obviously, when this moon is taking place, we are in a Cancer season. Once again, you know, it starts with the solstice, the change of season, the change of direction. You know, things are shifting, and it is all about this Capricorn full moon, which is something that got seeded, of course, in a Capricorn season, which was also the new direction. Capricorn season started the winter, you know, for us up in a upper hemisphere. There was also a solstice. So now we see the other side of the coin. And it's saying that, okay, well, you know, we started the year with this new moon in Capricorn, which was straight away preparing us for this energy of you need to learn to redefine what is your inner landscape to create the reality you want to be experiencing, and we need to take responsibility for that, right? Because this reality we are experiencing right now is a consequence, is a manifestation of these previous cycles, right? Saturn is in Pisces, is the totality of manifestation of everything that came before. But now we have the choice. We entered the year with moon in a sign of Virgo, which is about learning and adjusting, is the Hermit card, is this, you know, like tuning in, tapping in to actually discover, okay, what am I learning from this and what am I going to do about it? Because of course, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn grant Earth trine, which is all about this path to self-mastery. And that's what we came here to do as a soul, you know. We're never going to 100% master, you know, everything, but we came here to grow and evolve and to get to the next stage of our evolutionary path. So once again, with this full moon in Capricorn, number 1, which is prior to Saturn going retrograde, because that's going to completely change the energy, Saturn going retrograde, because again, it will be internalized, you know, it will be internalized process. Right now, Saturn being direct, it's gathering information from the outside, even though it is in Pisces, which is this continuous co-creation with the spirit. But when it goes inwards, it will be this internalization and acceleration, because our inner landscape will be changing. And as we know, Capricorn and Cancer comes as a pair. So this is all about the more we feel safe and secure internally, and the more we know who we are and trust ourselves, trust our inner guidance, trust our intuition, the easier it is to create the reality you want to be experiencing, to take the responsibility for it, that to also feel like, yes, I am in charge of my life. Yeah, I'm the conscious creator of my reality. So this is an illumination. This is an illumination of that process that got seeded on January 11th. 11, you know, again, massa number frequency, January 11th, at the beginning of this year, as the first lunation of 2024, the year number 8, which is the number associated with Saturn and Jupiter, you know, to this learning and expanding through taking responsibility and being disciplined, you know, putting the work in. But also, like I said, in Tarot is the Strength card, which is all about your purpose and destiny and building resiliency. And in opposition with Strength card is the Star, which is about the future, is the Aquarius, you know. So this is how everything is connected. And now we see the illumination, number 1, which is about, okay, what do we see? How far have we got? What do we see with all these, you know, new phase conjunctions, with everything that happened in the meanwhile? And this, as I mentioned, is preparing us, actually already at this stage, Mercury is squaring the nodes. But like I said, in this case, unlike at the beginning of the year when the new moon in Capricorn was squaring the nodes, conjunct Pluto, at the time Pluto was still squaring the nodes for the last time, resolution was the South Node in Libra. Pay attention to your external environment to gather information which you then will be processing. So look where things are out of balance in your life. Look at where potentially you get triggered by other people. Look where you feel like, you know, your needs are not being met, or the relationships you are, you know, engaged in are not being equal. The world we are living in, you know, like there is not much equality going on under right now. So this is what we were focusing on in the first half of the year, right? Like this external. Now things are shifting, because now everything that's going to be squaring the nodes from the sign of Cancer, which is going to be everything, of course, Mercury, Venus, you know, Sun, and then eventually Mars, when Mars gets there, you know, in summer, The resolution node is the north node, which is this Aries, and that's what I mean. Things got reset, things shifted in Aries season with these eclipses, with the Sun conjunct north node, the eclipse in conjunction with Chiron. Now we just experienced these sextiles to Chiron, which is again why things might be coming up for us, getting triggered, because there are wounds that we need to look at again and identify differently or do something different with them, so they don't keep creating the same reality over and over again, which is like, even like for me, I just had like a personal session yesterday for myself, and I was just saying like, I'm sick and tired of keeping recreating and re-experiencing the same patterns and the same dynamics, and I just want it to be done. I just want to be able to shift this energy and to create a different outcome, to pass this test, learn this lesson, and just to move on already. And as a human collective consciousness, with the Saturn as the ruler of this full moon being in a sign of Pisces, how many more times do we need to keep recreating the same wheel, having the same experiences because somebody said this is who we are, this is how it always was, and it cannot be any different way? But that is not the truth anymore, because everything got reset in this Aries season with these new phase conjunctions with North Node, and then subsequently conjunction with Uranus, especially Jupiter as the storyteller, conjuncted Uranus in April. I mean, now it's kind of coming out of orb. Jupiter is a little bit too far now, but still either way is in a new phase cycle with Uranus. And this is like, no, the story is changing because Jupiter is now in Gemini. We have a choice, and now Mercury as the ruler is in a sign of Cancer, in a new phase to Sun, and it's saying like, no, you need to tune in, you need to tap in and decide what it is for you. Jupiter as a storyteller is in Gemini. We all have the choice to decide whatever it is that we want to keep creating and experiencing, but we need to trust ourselves. We need to, face these wounds, face these things that made us feel, distrust ourselves, this fragmentation of the soul, these aspects of ourselves we had to reject and we don't trust because we couldn't engage with them for whatever reason, because of the environment we were growing up in and whatever, which is again because that's what soul chose, right? That's what soul wanted to experience, because, it's a school of life. We didn't come here just to have an easy ride. But with this Neptune now squaring this full moon in Capricorn, is creating this tension. It's saying, okay, it's time to let it go. It's time to let it go, because these are the last quarter square. Moon to Neptune and Neptune to Sun. It's a last quarter square, which is saying that there is something that needs to something's gonna give. Something's gonna give, because this cycle is ending. It's closing. Saturn is in Pisces, it's in the closing phase to Neptune. Both of them are gonna turn retrograde shortly. So, the cycle is ending. Like during the next, let me see. Yes, already during the next full moon in Capricorn, Neptune will be retrograde. So Cancer, Neptune. So Neptune must be turning, I don't have the exact date, but it must be obviously turning retrograde right at the beginning of July, because during the next two lunation, both Saturn and Neptune are already retrograde. So this is, of course, is going to make us go more inwards. And now, so technically this is very simple concept, because during the beginning of the year, during the new moon in Capricorn, we had this square to the nodes. The actual Capricorn new moon was squaring the nodes together with Pluto, because it was conjunct. Pluto was in a new phase, 29 degrees of Capricorn, saying yes, based on everything that came before, this totality, Saturn in Pisces, we've learned the lessons, or we have the opportunity to learn the lessons, and now we're going in this new direction. But it's not gonna by looking at to someone else, It's not gonna be resolved by looking to someone else, this Libra, this someone else, No, this is the feedback mechanism. This is the information gathering, but we're not gonna make the right decision, but going to someone else and say, hey, how should I do it? Or let me look at the history book and do it the same way. No, this is to help us to see, like, okay, this is how it was done. This was the outcome. What is the learning, right? The moon was in the sign of, Virgo at the beginning of the year. So now there is the illumination, because everything shifted in a springtime during the equinox, and subsequently afterwards, during the conjunctions to North Node and Uranus, everything shifted. Everything shifted in the springtime, and we had the opportunity to see differently, especially now after this new moon in Gemini, with the Venus being in a new phase conjunction as the ruler of the South Node, we have the opportunity to start perceiving things differently. So now there is the illumination of this full moon in Capricorn, which is saying, okay, we already knew at the beginning of the year, this is the last year Pluto gonna go retrograde in Capricorn. That cycle is ending. Saturn is in Pisces. That cycle is ending. Both Saturn, Neptune are going, and Uranus, all three of them are going to, just dip into the new sign next year, and then back, and then fully into 2026. So things are shifting, right? Things are shifting. So with this full moon in Capricorn number 1, we see the illumination, but still both Neptune, Saturn are direct. So like we still information gathering. Neptune is squaring it, is saying, okay, I'm going to create more and more pressure, where I'm going to make you understand and realize that these things are not going with us into the future. They now lost the meaning. We had the opportunity to keep recreating this wheel for many, many thousands and thousands of years, and now we're done with it. The structure of reality based on this, this story, right, is not working anymore, because Jupiter is in Gemini, Mercury now is in Cancer. It's saying, no, you need to tap in, you need to decide for yourself, because all the planets transiting through the sign of Cancer, now Mercury already, being the first one, are squaring the nodes, now pointing to the North Node. Pointing to the North Node as the resolution node. The North Node is in the sign of Aries, and Mars is in the sign of Taurus. Again, where did Uranus-Jupiter conjunction happen? In Taurus. Everybody conjunct Uranus in Taurus. You need to trust yourself. We all need to create this new foundation of our reality, where we starting from the fresh, we starting from the scratch, and we're going, okay, I hear you, I hear what you're saying to me, and I understand this is your truth, and this even might be the reality you're experiencing, but it doesn't have to be mine. I don't have to agree, because we are all unique, right? Even though we all part of the source, and we are an extension of the source, and we're part of the human collective consciousness, but we are all a unique expression of the source. We all have a unique soul signature. We all came here with a unique purpose and destiny, which is the Leo, right? And that's where we will be getting next time, of course. But with all of this, it's important then to tune in and understand, okay, what does it mean for me? This is why we have this full moon, in opposition. The moon is in opposition with both Venus and Mercury in the sign of Cancer, ruled by the moon in the sign of Capricorn on 1 degree, and 8 minutes and 7 minutes adds to number 8. Again, the strength, again, the resiliency, again, that authenticity. Strength card is ruled by Sun. Who are you? Is the Leo. Is a strength card represents the Leo. Who are you? Who is your authentic essence? And now with this Mars, as the ruler of the North Node being in a sign of Taurus, and everybody in Cancer, squaring these nodes, pointing to North Node in Aries, ruled by Mars in Taurus, it's saying, no, the answers are within. All these things in Gemini we're making, these planets. We're making a sextile to Chiron in this Aries, right? Which is saying, yeah, we're going in this new direction, for which we need to start identifying reality differently, look at different information, make different choices, make these changes, la 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 la, all the rest of it, because this is what's helping us to shift the pattern. But how are we gonna do it? Well, Mars as the ruler now is in the sign of Taurus. Well, we need to ground this energy by tuning in, tapping in, getting to know ourselves, getting to understand who we are, and reconnecting with ourselves, with our body, with our essence, with yes, our multidimensionality, but especially our intuition, and then subsequently our heart, because then obviously all these planets are going to move into the sign of sign of Leo already during the full moon in Capricorn number 2 next month. Venus and Mercury will be in a sign of Leo, and by that stage Mars will have conjuncted Uranus, will be in a new phase, and Mars will be in a sign of Gemini. So anyway, so that will be for another conversation, of course. And with the Cancer one, let's see. Oh yeah, that's the one. I knew I saw it somewhere. Yeah, also during the new moon in Cancer, Venus still will be conjuncting it in the sign of Cancer. So we have Venus conjuncting Sun 3 times in a row for all this lunation. New moon in Gemini, full moon in Capricorn, number 1, and new moon in Cancer. Venus, as the ruler of the South Node, resolution node, will be conjuncting Sun. Yeah, all these 3 times she's conjuncting Sun. Each time, of course, well, no, twice in Cancer. Once it was in Gemini. So anyway, so that was just a side note, which I felt that I needed to mention. So yeah, so like I said, everything from the sign of Cancer is going to be squaring the node. Why? Because in essence, who really can answer the question, I know exactly who I am, right? If somebody asks, especially at this time, especially at this time in human evolution and with all these transformation changes and everything that's going on, and us, like stripping the layers of conditioning and trying to come to the core of who we really are. If somebody asks you, who are you? How many people can actually say, I know exactly who I am? Not labels, not name and passport and nationality and, whatever, but who are you, So, so this is why, because all these planets from Cancer will be squaring North Node in the sign of Aries, saying that, yeah, because you are being reborn, because you are not who you were, because you are becoming a different version of yourself. And now with this full moon in Capricorn, we get in the first illumination of, what does it mean? What does it mean for me? What do I need to do? What kind of things do I need to change with regards to the structure of the reality? What do I need to let go of? What do I need to release because of this Neptune square, right? And of course, Saturn, like being involved, because even though it's a white orb, but Saturn is always involved because it's the structure of reality, and Saturn, of course, is the ruler of this full moon in Capricorn. Saturn, so Saturn isn't involved. Actually, Saturn is making an opposition to Juno. Exact kind of. So anyway, and then what else is going on? Yeah, this. Mars square to Pluto, we just had the exact one. So Mars is still within a degree to the square to Pluto. And this is again first quarter square, which is again, what action are we going to take? What is Taurus, Do we know ourselves? Do we trust ourselves? Do we value ourselves? Do we know our own sense of worth? And that's connected to this Capricorn Virgo, because the grand earth trine, which is the path to self-mastery. We need to know who we are. We need to trust ourselves. We need to be able to tap in rather than always look for the answers outside of us. And then, yes, of course, we're going to make mistakes, because that's life, right? That's Virgo, learning and adjusting. But eventually we'll master it. And eventually we change the pattern, we create different reality based on all this learning and all these journeys and everything. Because that's exactly what we all came here to do. Every time we incarnate, we just came here to just to take us a little bit further alongside the line of this evolution. Like, okay, yeah, this is what I came here to contribute with this time. And at the same time, I'm here to have this experience and, work on my own soul, whatever it is, desire that the soul wants to experience in this life. And at the same time, I'm contributing to healing these patterns of my family. And at the same time, I'm contributing to healing this collective consciousness and patterns that are embedded in this collective that is healing, that's also this Pisces, Neptune. It's healing, with the Juno being in sign of Virgo. It's healing. So anyway, guys, I don't really know what else to say, and I think I'm just repeating myself anyway, but technically, all these planets, Venus, Mercury, planets in Cancer, are preparing to square the nodes. Mercury is already squaring the nodes, but at the same time, they're still within the square to Neptune, interestingly enough. So we have the square to the nodes, resolution North Node in Aries, and at the same time, we have a square to Neptune, again, endings and beginnings. What are we releasing, especially with regards to your identity, the labels that we put on ourselves, because Cancer, that stories we were being told based on the old structures of the reality, this Capricorn full moon, that it no longer resonates. This is not who you are, just like I said, like many of us are feeling this loyalty to these traditions and these old how things were, because we don't want to like disrespect those that came before, but actually and that's of course not what we're supposed to do, but in the same way, things are growing and evolving, things are always expanding. So even being attached to certain ideology or religion that has been birthed thousands of years ago doesn't mean that it's invalid, but it needs to be updated, because these things were, which again is questionable when these things were written, but if we go by the narrative, thousands of years ago. But back then, people were at a completely different level of consciousness. It was a different world. It looked different. We interacted with it differently. Everything was different, right? So this is why the structure on which our world is built upon, it's not going to hold anymore, because it's built on the past. Which, yes, we need to learn from the past, so we don't have to keep repeating it, but we need to open ourselves to these, new possibilities, to this future, not just keep recreating the same pattern by being attached to the same versions of stories or versions of ourselves, these old identities. So anyway, so in a nutshell, this full moon is this first illumination of what this means for each and every single one of us, because also with all these activations to Chiron that happened recently, and then like later on in July, there will be the square to Chiron between, Mercury Chiron, Venus Chiron, Sun Chiron. Everybody that just sextile Chiron now is going to square Chiron, which of course for Venus and Mercury will be the crisis in action, for Sun crisis in consciousness, because, Sun is special, as I always keep saying. But either way, yes, there is certain kind of crisis that we are all experiencing, myself included, as I've been sharing in my practical application of astrology, because we have to let go of this, not just comfort zone, but these versions of ourselves which are so familiar. And now we all been invited to let go of these things that created our life, our stability, our labels, who I am, our identity. And now it's suddenly saying that no, this is not going to work in the future. We all have to change the life we live in, the way we live in the world. Everything has to change, and it creates a lot of crisis, right? It creates this sense of like, oh my God, it's too huge. Like, how can we change all of this? But it's already happening, that's why all these energies, everything is happening simultaneously, this closing and opening, this conjunction, new phase, closing phase, first sextile, last sextile, oppositions, which is the midpoint, the squares, first square, closing square, everything is always happening simultaneously, because at the same time as we are releasing this old and, like letting go of these past versions of ourselves, the new versions of ourselves already exist. So anyway, so this again, this can go in so many different directions, but the essence of all of this is that with Mars being in a sign of Taurus, the ruler of this full moon, Saturn, and also the ruler of Saturn, Neptune, being in Pisces, and all these planets now being in the sign of Cancer, and Moon being in the sign of Capricorn, this is all very feminine energy. It is all yin energy, which is all about this receptivity. We also know that this like rise of a divine feminine, not necessarily just female, like a woman, right? But the rise of the divine feminine, because this world is built on very masculine energies, this constant doing, which is not sustainable. It's actually not in alignment with the way we wired, the way our human body works, the way nature operates. So with this full moon in Capricorn, a lot of things are becoming illuminated to us, because you are not the same person you were at the beginning of the year, where the new moon was squaring the nodes pointing to the south node. And now things are going to be pointing to the north node. Things have changed. Things have shifted in April, especially, during this solar eclipse in Aries, in a new phase conjunction with north node, and the subsequent Jupiter conjunction to Uranus. Things have changed. Everything has changed. And especially, with the second full moon in Capricorn, by that stage, Mars, as the ruler of the North Node, will be already in a new phase conjunction with Uranus, and it already will be on 0 degrees of Gemini. So, like I said, that's for another conversation, but this is the first illumination, because then we're going to have a new moon in Cancer, where a new version of you will be reborn. It will be seeded, for this new version of yourself. And, we actually want to have a full moon in Cancer this year. It will going to be next year, like it's going to be the first lunation in 2025, because we're going to end this year with the new moon in Capricorn. So you know, so during the second full moon in Capricorn, we will have much more inner standing, because by that point the planets will be, you know, Saturn and Neptune will be retrograde, which will take us internally again. So anyway, guys, you know, this is a midpoint. This cycle is going to fully end at the end of the year with the new moon in Capricorn, the closing one, which will be taking place on 9 degrees 44 minutes, so Capricorn decan. And again, it's important to pay attention to these numbers, you know, like the new moon in Capricorn in January happened 20 degrees 44 minutes, which is number 10. Which is this ending and new beginning, right? Because that's exactly what this year is about, endings and new beginnings. Then this one, which is taking place right here, right now, you know, it's 1 degree 8 minutes, like I said, 7 minutes. It adds up to number 8, which is the year we at, you know, number 8, strength card, yeah? We build in strength, we build in resiliency, we are becoming our own authority, right? All the rest of it. Then the next one, you know, which is taking place on 21st of July, you know, Capricorn Full Moon number 2, will be 29 degrees and 9 minutes. 29 degrees and 9 minutes. And like I said, you know, Pluto, during the new moon in Capricorn in January, was on 29 degrees. It was 41 minutes, not 9 minutes, but it was 41 minutes, which is number 5, change. And then this one next month will be 29 degrees and 9 minutes. And that's literally what is Neptune doing now, 29 degrees, 54 minutes, right? Yes, same thing, 9, 29 and 9, you know, 29 and 9, which is 11 and 9, you know, like in a sense, I always joke because I can see these numbers very often, 9, 11, it's a SOS. It is the last call, like, hey, it's time, you know, it's time. It is the 9/11, it's 9/11 or 11/9, you know, like I think in my country is 11/9, I'm not sure, you know, when you call the emergency, right? It is that, right? It's like, it's the last call. And 11 is a master number frequency, like I said, so everything is divinely orchestrated. And then at the end of the year, as I already mentioned, it will be 9 degrees 44 minutes, again 9 and 8, which is number 17, which comes up to number 8 again, you know. So it's all this confirmation of everything that's taking place, how everything is actually exactly as it's meant to be, exactly in alignment. And, you know, like I said, Pluto is still within the degree of trine in Jupiter, and this is supporting this new story which we creating, but it's going to look different for different people because Aquarian age is about individuation and authenticity. It's not about copy-paste. It's not about everybody's going to be doing the same thing. No, everybody's going to discover who they are and do their own thing and connect with people who are on the same frequency. So nobody has to sacrifice anybody to fit somebody else's, you know, agenda or needs or whatever. It's going to be this conscious relationships, right? Conscious relationship. I know who I am. I know what I have to offer, and we don't have to manipulate each other or pretend to be someone else to get our needs met. It's going to be very open and very transparent, conscious relationships, right? And this is what this Venus in Cancer, you know, in this opposition with the full moon is saying, that we need to create this balance within ourselves to understand who we are, what is our inner landscape about. That's where Sun is shining now, Cancer. What is your inner world telling you? What are you discovering about yourself with the Mars being in Taurus, grounding this energy, you know, becoming more strong in our new foundation that we are creating. And anyway, the story continues. Like I said, this is an ever-evolving process. So let's pull some cards now to see, you know, what cards. I already, when I was shuffling, 2 cards came out from the Queen of the Moon Oracle. So let's see if either of them is going to come out again. But it was very interesting. I said what they were afterwards. Okay, so what is the energy of this full moon in Capricorn, number 1? Full moon in Capricorn happening on June 21st. Okay, there's too many. But yeah, a few cards poking out. One of them was change. We know that's happening for sure. Okay, again the change jumped out. Okay, 3rd time lucky. Let's see if she comes out again. Okay. Okay, we have two cards. Okay. Nourishment and abundance, Hunter Moon. And it's the number 38, which is number 11 again, and number 7. Nourishment and abundance. So we have to nourish ourselves to reap the rewards. And this is obviously, this is going to be the fall, you know, the equinox. And then we have a nourishment, which is very much like a Cancer energy. You know, you can see the egg, you know, that we are sitting on the egg, you know, there is a potential for all this abundance to be birthed. But yeah, the nourishment, the card that was popping out was the change, which is, we know that there is a change. We know we're going through a lot of, you know, transformation. We might resist it, but it's still happening, right? But yeah, so it's the card of nurturing yourself, giving to yourself what you need, which is exactly what Cancer season is about. It's about self-nourishment and taking care of yourself, because, you know, and all this water, feel your emotion, feel your feelings. And then, you know, yeah, by autumn, you know, autumn for us in upper hemisphere, summer obviously, there will be spring in lower hemisphere, southern hemisphere, we will be able to have more clarity, you know, seek the rewards, because by then we will be in Libra season, right? Libra season again, you know, there will be the eclipses, right? Eclipses, and there will be the conjunction to the south node. Venus is going to conjunct south node one more time. That will be the last retrograde of Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. So we will be able to have much more clarity and reap the rewards of what we are seeding, planting now. You know, again, she has a fox there, you know, have to be nimble and have to be able to adjust to the environment. We have a full moon there, hunter moon, that is definitely in fall. And the cards that actually popped up for me was the faith and fear, because there is definitely a lot of fear going on because we don't know, but it's this faith, and it's even like what's showing up in my life, this faith, trust, and surrender. But yeah, nourish yourself and then you can reap the rewards, you know. But also look at that, she's dressed in like red, the base chakra, you know, the root chakra. The roots have to be strong, the foundation. We can see the trees and all the animals being in alignment, you know, being in alignment, the inner world and the outer world, right? So anyway, this is what we get in here. Nourishment and abundance, 7 and 38. Let's see if there is something that pops out for me. 7. So nourishment, that's, you know, the one with the feast, this one. Choose to nourish your mind, body, and spirit. Feed your values, Mars in Taurus. When you are jealous or envious, it is a sign that what you are actually hungering, it is a sign of what you are actually hungering for. Pay attention to your health. I choose to nourish myself. And then, yeah, so it's technically just about that. I'm not going to read the whole interpretation because I want to pull some other cards. So it's about self-nourishment. It's quite self-explanatory, the card. And then the hunter moon, abundance. Take advantage of this time of abundance. But I think this is a potential for that. Take advantage of this time of abundance. It is all around you. Possibility and opportunities are everywhere. You are open and responsive to the abundance around you. There is enough for everyone. I am abundant and I'm supported by opportunity. The hunter moon is a traditional moon of plenty. So the abundance is a part of the cycle, just like any other. It wasn't present all the time, So this is about how this moon normally rises in October, yeah, Libra season, in the northern hemisphere, and so it was before the winter snows. So yeah, that's what I feel, you know, like we are making adjustments because this is a halfway. We are making adjustments. Especially because these activations, these big shifts happened in the springtime in the northern hemisphere, you know, after this springtime equinox. So then we had the full moon lunar eclipse in Libra, which is all about this, you know, illumination of what was out of balance, then the seeding of this new energy, the new moon solar eclipse in Aries. Now we have the midpoint of the Capricorn stuff, you know, that got seeded at the beginning of the year, that was squaring the south node in Libra. And now we will have much more, you know, like opportunity to reap the rewards of all of this in fall, you know, in autumn, in October time, because that's when we're going to have the next new moon solar eclipse in Libra, and that will be after the lunar eclipse in Pisces. Because we are not having a full moon lunar eclipse in Aries. We actually are going to have in mid-October, we're going to have a full moon in Aries, but not an eclipse, but we will have a lunar eclipse in Pisces, which is again about, and it's going to conjunct Neptune because it's going to be on 25 degrees, which is again about illumination of what we're releasing. So technically what this speaks to me, apart from the fact that, yeah, you need to nurture yourself, you need to learn about your needs and values and take care of those, you know, like to like really explore our inner landscape, and is this also reparenting oneself, the inner child. And then in Libra season, we will be able to create, potentially see more balance, potentially establish more balance by that point. And because it is the reset of the of the solar eclipse in Libra that got seeded in October last year, and even during this eclipse season in fall, Pluto will be in Capricorn for the last time. So this is where I feel like this is so important. This is such an imperative time, because we are creating a new foundation. The way we are changing ourselves and our approach to life, and changing our way of interacting with it, with this Gemini stuff that we just experienced recently, we creating a completely different inner landscape, which will then be manifesting in an outer landscape. But first, things needs to change and shift internally, and then we will see them externally. Because Cancer season, and then it will be the Libra season, the October, which is the outer, Libra is the masculine sign, is the outer. Then we will see the something shift in the external environment, but at the moment it's about the shifts happening on the internal level, which is what this full moon is illuminating to us. Oh, and interesting, right underneath was the sovereignty. There we go, sovereignty. Yeah, because that's exactly where we head in. Oh my god, I can't believe that card was just like poking right there, the sovereignty, because that's what it's all about. Okay, we're going to pull card from my one of my new most favorite decks, this Gateway of Light activation, because I want to know what is getting activated with this portal. Because as always, every new moon, full moon, there are portals, just like is the 6677 next month, which is happening technically alongside with the new moon in Cancer, but that's happening on the 6th. So anyway, let's see what gateway is being activated with this full moon in Capricorn part 1. Okay, so what is the card for us? One. Okay, this one. The Divine Matrix. Interconnectedness, synchronicity, and coincidences. And we have the flower of the universe. Yeah, the unlimited potential. Everything is available, everything is created from the same place. The Divine Matrix. And at the bottom of the card, Order of Melchizedek. Embraced by light, mission uncovered, don't give up. Okay, we take both of these cards. Look, portal. The portal to the universe. Okay, let's see the Divine Matrix first. Divine Matrix. So the flower of the universe. Everything is connected. Everything that was, is, and ever will be is connected by an invisible bond of energy uniting every living being from the past, present, and even future. This isn't a new idea. Every great mystic through the ages has understood that everything is one, and now scientists are beginning to provide evidence for it. The best way to describe the connection of is as a lattice of grid, a divine matrix. We are all points on this grid, and we are all connected through it. It links us to our ancestry and loved ones, aspects of ourselves, past, present, and future, and also the ancient and divine wisdom held in a quantum field of the universe. This card shows a giant stargate opening up. Oh, it's the flower of life. Opening up to the universe and the piece of sacred geometry known as the flower of life. This is quite literally a two-dimensional image of the divine matrix, and the information held within it can help us begin to understand the inner and outer workings of this incredible universe. If you spend time with this image, you'll find multiple images within it, reminding us all that nothing is happening by chance, and that even when we can't fully comprehend it, there's a greater plan unfolding. Connect, meditate on the flower of life image on this gateway card, and affirm, I am connected to all beings, all intelligence, and all forms of light, past, present, and future. I am one with the One. Your message: you are in alignment with the oneness of life and the inner workings of the universe. You are part of something great. That means that you are greatness expressing itself. Not one thing in your life has happened by chance. Even when you felt that things have been against you, a process has been unfolding, helping you understand your connectedness to all things. So there's no need to feel insignificant or lonely. It's also important to remember that the universe is always working in your favor and for the highest good. You might have felt lost, but know that nothing is ever lost. For we've all held in the heart, we are all held in the heart of the source, and love is our connection to all things. So, flower of life. There we go. Yeah. Connectedness to all. Yeah, figure out the inner workings, because the outer just reflects that. And then the order of Melchizedek. Okay, so that's this portal. Stargate portal. The order of Melchizedek. Embraced by light, mission uncovered, don't give up. Okay, pronounce Melchizedek. Okay, Melchizedek, whose name means King of Righteousness, is the first high priest mentioned in the Bible, the one who initiated all the great teachers that followed him. He is mentioned in several Abrahamic texts, including the Dead Sea Scrolls and also the Kabbalistic Zohar. He is the ancient gatekeeper of the light, who is dedicated to helping all those walking the spiritual path to take the initiatory steps to align with the light. The best way to describe this great being is as a wizard. When you invoke him, you will feel the presence of a loving and angelic grandfather who wants to guide you to your greatness. The order of Melchizedek, which was mentioned by Jesus in the New Testament, is a divine order of very high frequency light beings, angels and masters, who are working together as an energetic force dedicated to lightening up and outshining all darkness and bringing a greater balance of masculine and feminine energies to the earth. Its members include Jesus, Archangel Michael, Archaea Faith, and Mother Mary. By connecting with those cosmic beings, we give permission for our energy to be upgraded by light and to light, so that we can become an even greater vessel of purpose for the world. Connect. When you're feeling challenged by something that feels like a big life lesson, call in the order of Melchizedek, light bearers, angelic beings, and cosmic guides. Thank you for enveloping me in your brilliant crystal clear light. Your message: you have learned so much and are now recognizing all the great lessons your experiences and challenges have brought you. The order of Melchizedek is coming to you today to encourage you to continue on this pathway and not to give up. Even in moments of darkness and fear, there is an opportunity for you to share your light. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's imperative for you to know you're not alone. Light is with you and within you, and by invoking spiritual support, you will be able to muster up the strength, courage, and focus you need to surmount whatever challenges you face. We had the Orion activation last time, didn't we? Okay, so here we go. So everything is connected. We are all in this together. And you know, this energy reminds me of like Saturn in Pisces. You know, the Melchizedek, the grandfather, the spiritual grandfather. Also Merlin, Merlin coming online. You know, so yeah. So let's tap into the wisdom of the elders and the wisdom of the lighter beings to guide us through this passage. Because yeah, things are not easy and they're not necessarily going to get easier, but we are supported and everything is happening in alignment because, you know, the universe is in a continuous process of recreating itself. Okay. And yeah, and for that, of course, we need to nurture ourselves to be strong, so then we can feel abundant and reap the rewards of our favor. And behind all of that, of course, is this. That's exactly where we're heading. That is the, you know, the light being, the light beings. Yeah, we can see. Okay. One major arcana to close, and then we're gonna leave it at that. Okay, what is the traditional tarot. Okay. Oh, star. Okay, perfect. Yes. Yeah, we're creating our future. Hope for the future, healing. Look at all that water. Very much Cancer, yeah? Even though this is a card of Aquarius. But yeah, Lady Sovereignty. Very Aquarian. You know, all of this very Aquarian, very futuristic. And yeah, it's all about healing, you know. This is exactly what we're going for. Like I said, you know, all these squares that are going to be coming up to Chiron, you know, it's all about healing the wounds of the past, and also this letting go of the past identity, being stripped to the core essence of who we are, tapping into our emotion, one foot on earth, yeah, Mars in Taurus, and, you know, everybody else in Cancer. Tapping into emotion, be grounded in the body, and create, you know, and isn't this like the Pleiades, right? The seven sisters, Pleiades. So yeah, hope for the future, healing, the time of transformation, Aquarius, stepping into your authenticity, individuation, sovereignty, gateway to the future, flower of life, continuous of life, and at the bottom, magician, of course. You are your magician, the whole universe, you know, is at your disposal, right? But again, you can see one hand pointing to the earth and one to heaven. There has to be a balance, right? And we have a full moon, opposition, balance. What is out of balance? You know, we'll have much more understanding in a Libra season. Balance. We are trying to find a balance. That's why, you know, with all these triggers and things that are happening outside of us, which are triggering things inside of us that are showing us what is unhealed, what is out of balance, so we can work on it and come closer to balance. Anyway, guys, I'll leave it at that. I hope that this potentially might have offered some more clarity with regards to the current energies and everything that's going on for us astrologically, but to be continued, because like I said, there is another full moon in Capricorn next month after the new moon in Cancer. And yeah, I wish you all a wonderful rest of the weekend. I will be coming up with my practical application of astrology at some point throughout the weekend, so stay tuned and enjoy yourselves, and I'll speak to you again soon. Much love, everyone, and bye for now.